Good. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Committee of Adjustments, January 14th, 2025. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. I would ask that all folks in attendance, please make sure their cell phones are on vibrate and devices are on mute as well. I will introduce our staff and then our committee. I'll start with our planner, Randy Shea, our Chief Administrative Officer, Adam Sabansky, our planning technician, Mackenzie Baird, and Corinne Nada, our Manager of Development Services, is in attendance today. And I will introduce our committee, starting from my far right, Councillor Mike Vasey, Committee Member Jennifer Chirk, to my left, Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen, Committee Member Les Goldhawk, and I am the Chair, Bruce Moulton. So we will start. I will ask our committee if they have a declaration of any pecuniary interest. Please note them at the appropriate time. This time I have a motion from Nettie McEwen, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the minutes of the regular Committee of Adjustments meeting held December 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. Everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes. All those in favor? That motion is carried. We will move to our first application, consent application number B-0125. Take notice an application has been made by Brendan Wooters with respect to the property known as Concession 8E Part Lot 10, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 3981 HYSLOP line. The applicant is requesting permission to sever approximately 0.97 hectares, 2.4 acres from the lot municipally known as 3981 HYSLOP line for the purpose of creating a new lot. The retained lot is proposed to be approximately 41 hectares, 101.31 acres. The property previously underwent a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the retained lands from agricultural 1A1 to no dwelling agriculture NDA as part of the surplus farm dwelling severances process. This consent application is the next step in that process. At this time, I will refer to our planner, Randy Shea.
Thank you, your chair. So as stated, the applicant is intending to sever approximately 2.4 acres from the farmland. This is a part of, I think it might be our first severance for the surplus farm dwelling severances policies that we have now in state. For a severance to be approved through these policies, the rezoning application does need to be completed, which as stated, they did do so in September of last year. And then there's a kind of a list of criteria that needs to be maintained in order for the severance to go through, essentially. And so I'll just go over the Town of Plympton-Wyoming official plan. It says the creation of new residential lots shall be prohibited except where a habitable dwelling existed prior to the adoption of this plan. A consent to sever a lot containing the dwelling may be granted if the residence becomes surplus from farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, provided that. So the first one is that the rezoning prohibits a new residential lot on the retained farmland, which has been done and completed. Then number two, the size of any new lot shall be determined by a study submitted with the application, completed by a qualified professional to determine the size necessary to support private water service and private sewage disposal systems. Sewage assessment was done as a condition of this consent, and it was a condition of this rezoning as well. There will need to be a new septic system put in place, and then the lot is the appropriate 2.4 acres for the septic system. The farms are both located within the town. The applicant did provide staff with a list of farms that he owned in the town, and there was a couple others with other dwellings, so therefore that is maintained. And the new lot is located to minimize the impact of the remaining farm operation. So that is kind of why we have this, I call a lollipop shape, to minimize the fact and to make sure we keep it at that 2.4 acres, which is kind of the maximum that these usually tend to go. And then 5, that the new lot complies with the minimum distance formula. So MDS calculations have been completed and provided by the applicant, and there are no concerns with the setbacks requirements. And finally, the new lot does conform to the regulations in the A1 for a single detached dwelling within the zoning bylaw. And if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Wooters, anything to add to the?
No, I think she went over most of it. If any of you guys have any questions,
I will give them an opportunity for sure to ask questions. Mackenzie, any correspondence on this application?
Through the chair, we received no correspondence on the application.
Okay, thank you. I will now move to our committee questions. I'll start this time with my far left, Les. Any questions?
Just a couple. One is, there's a power line that runs through the agricultural section through this lot. Is there any provisions have to be made for that in the future, or?
So there's been no concerns and staff did kind of were aware of the transmission line, but there's no policies in specific that relate to that for that would hinder the severance.
There be an agreement of some sort?
There would be no agreement between the owner and the town. If that's what you're referring to.
Well, I guess I'm just looking for the power line.
Is that a private transmission line or is that a Hydro One transmission line?
well, I'm not 100% sure. The transformer is on, so you can see the pole that would be left of the laneway. Yeah, if you see the 125 meters on the left-hand side, there's a pole to the left there. And then there's a pole on the proposal of the severance, and that's where the transformer is. So
That would be an interesting fact to know because
I'm not sure on.
I dealt
what
with
that is.
transmission lines across that in previous municipality. And if you sever those lands and then sell it, you may lose legal right to operate that line if it is fully private, which likely it could be because if it's off the main transmission line, it's probably the farm's responsibility. And if you're to sever it as is, then the house could lose legal access to that electrical line. So that's something that might be important for electrical services to be looked at.
This, go ahead.
Well, I'd need to ask you, were they notified?
So
Ontario Hydro, I presume it's Ontario Hydro, would it be?
for Mackenzie and for the notified for the severance.
Should be on our circulation list. We have our contacts on that. Yeah, I'm just gonna double check their
Yeah.
contact circulations.
Because I don't see any comments from them. But that, if they didn't get notified, then have any comments?
Yeah.
Well, while Mackenzie's looking for that, Les, you have another question?
Yeah, the second one was, couldn't tell by the overview there as of whether or not the row of trees that are beside the driveway, does that go along with the severed property?
Yeah, I applied, that would be part of the 2.4 acreage, the new severed.
Okay.
Mackenzie, when you find out that information, just let us know and I'll keep going with Deputy Mayor McEwen. Oh, that was your question? Okay. Jennifer?
It was the same as Deputy Mayor McEwen. I was gonna ask Mackenzie if Hydro One was contacted.
Mike? Okay, so we'll just wait on this. I guess I'll refer to our CAO as far as the going forward with this. I guess that would just be something that you would need to know, I guess, and deal with after the severance, or will it impact us giving us?
It can be dealt with in a couple different manners. It's depends on what the comfort level of the committee is. You could approve as is, but the property owner here must be realizing then that the future owner could lose the right to that if it's a fully private line, which could be their full responsibility to maintain through a private contractor. If it's a Hydro One maintained line, then that would be Hydro One's jurisdiction, and I can't answer that. Or you could pass it with the provisions that it either be relocated or an easement be attained at a later date.
So I'm gonna refer back to you, Mr. Wooders. I'm not sure if you, Mackenzie, do we know if they were notified or if there's an issue? Because I don't want to go into something without you knowing
Sure.
full well what you're going into. I mean, we can certainly defer this application and until we find out further information about the hydro wires and kind of get that sorted out before we grant the severance. But I'm gonna just add whatever you feel comfortable with, and I'll refer to our committee, whatever they feel comfortable with as well.
I guess I was kind of under the understanding that where the transformer starts, that's where the private line begins, and that was my understanding.
It could be the case. I'm not entirely certain. I know there is a point where it goes from public to private.
Mhm.
And that where that point is kind of
Right.
this conversation needs to go.
Could that not be put on a,
Condition.
yes,
I-
or not a condition of the severance, but a condition of, if that property gets sold, in the future, that is, that is included on that deed that they have,
You would end up back here because that permanent easements have to be registered on deed and title, and that can only be done through this committee.
Okay.
You would end up back here.
So I think what I'm kind of, Mackenzie, do we know if probably Hydro One probably haven't been?
No, our current circulation list doesn't have any Hydro One emails. It has Infrastructure Ontario and Enbridge included, but not Hydro One.
So is this are you in a hurry to do this?
well, I guess my question is, if committee approved this, sorry, what would be the next step, so that you're kind of saying if Hydro One says, well, you have to bury that underground, is it, I know Adam named a couple different things there, I guess I'm not quite understanding what
If it's fully private,
mhm.
you could apply for an easement, which could be made a condition of the severance, so it doesn't necessarily have to hold up the severance today.
Okay.
You could, if you could relocate it, but the cost of that, you're probably gonna prefer.
A lot, yeah.
Or if it's private from, like you hope it is from the transformer on, then it's non-issue. Hydro One has automatic access across those lands.
Okay,
So it really results in whether or not an easement's required. And I think a condition that if the hydro wire is determined to be private, that the applicant must obtain an easement for the hydro service would probably cover that condition. Yeah, planning, if that seems appropriate.
I've never had to add a condition like that through your chair. What I was going to suggest would be, should committee wish to approve the application, the severance wouldn't be complete until all the conditions are met, so it could be put as a condition. Or if you wanted to reach out to Hydro One to get that information, it just may be that you'd have to come back, like I said, for that easement. Be another application, another fee associated with that, or you could go through deferral and then we could have more information about the private line, and then potentially there wouldn't be another fee, another application. It would depend on the outcome of what Hydro One says.
so if council approved the application as it was today, and then I found out I had to, I required an easement, I would just apply at a later date, and apply for an easement then through committee of adjustment. Am I correct on?
Yes.
I'm fine with doing that.
It would just mean the other survey'd have to be updated, but you have to do one for the severance anyways.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Nettie, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable granting this with, not knowing anything about this hydro line. If it's private, like you'd be separating that service from that severance. Would be more comfortable either deferring it, not granting it with. if we put any conditions on this, and they're gonna require agreements and all sorts of things. It's not gonna be simple. So I would prefer to defer it and let Mr. Wooters get some more information on this hydro line. That way, you don't need to ask for another severance right now either. You know, maybe you can get this all done under one severance. Okay? So that's sort of where I am.
Ready? Jennifer?
Yeah, I agree. I would prefer to defer, and I can give Mackenzie the email to Hydro One for circulation purposes.
Okay.
Or maybe circulate it to Hydro One to ask for comments.
Mike?
I kind of see this as not our problem. This is an agreement between the farm and the lot. If down the road, the farm decides he doesn't want the pole in the middle of his yard, he's gonna have to move it down his laneway to get it out. So that's where the agreement between the farm owner and the house owner. It's got nothing to do with us severing the lot. It'd be more onus on the guy that buys the thing to know, to make sure that's in place to cover his butt, not really us.
No,
I've never dealt with
I just,
making sure there's hydro to the lot and all that kind of stuff before either, so but I don't see where it's kind of our concern.
like, once if this is sold and you don't own it anymore, then that's gonna create a problem with that service. And you want that legalized before you try and sell this, so why not clean it up now? Have it done right. My opinion, my humble.
Where are you sitting, Les?
I I posed the question, yes, but
Yeah.
basically it was just to see whether or not there needed to be an easement for the hydro through that property. That was really where I was going to. And that's a condition, or whether it's to be deferred, that's one thing. Like I just looked at it, that if it's an easement that it needs to have, then it still could be considered a condition that's on this particular request.
Mr. Wooters, I'm gonna ask you the question again, so. I guess. Having all the information in front of us would be really handy. Would 1 month from now would that interrupt what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I'm fine with delaying that for a month if that's what the committee wants. I don't have a problem with that.
Which I think it would be nice to kill all the birds with one stone and kind of get it done properly, and then you won't have to be here, or the new property owner won't have to be here looking for.
So just to clarify, when I contact Hydro One, we're just looking for clarification, if this is a public line to the transformer, or if it's private from the road to the house, correct? And if it is private from the road to the house, then we would need an easement that could be done a month from now as well. Is that, am I right on clarifying all
Have to be
that?
circulated again.
Yeah, I think just to make it easier for you, because Hydro One's not the easiest to
Yeah, that's
respond.
what I was just gonna.
So it would be easier if we circulated and included Hydro One.
Okay.
Because they would look at the property and they would know exactly what those lines are, what's private, what's public. And if they need an easement, they'll include that as a condition. So it'll be
Okay.
just like the other comments that we get
Sure.
from the County of Lambton, from St. Clair Conservation Authority. It's just another outside agency that would provide comment.
Yeah, that, I'm totally fine with that.
And Mackenzie, we can send that circulation out prior to the next meeting and have them on the agenda for the next committee, which is gonna be February the 11th, I think it is, or something.
And I'll send Mackenzie the email address.
Might want to add in to, pick up on Ontario Hydro's attention that they're involved in this, okay?
Yeah.
In the notification. Not just send them the way it is here.
Mackenzie, can you just write me up on a motion for deferral? I can get our committee to sign it and we can vote on the deferral. Once again, Mr. Wooters, once tomorrow, whatever, you can contact our planner and you can contact Mackenzie to kind of get any more information if you're having any issues.
Sure.
What you wanna do, sell this then, or? Cause get it straightened out.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
Sell it.
Yep, eventually, that's the plan, yep. Yeah, and like I said, when I applied, I was kind of under the assumption that when transformer starts, that's where it's privatized, but,
And it could be.
yeah.
Definitely could be that,
No.
and,
No, that's fair, that's fair, for sure.
we'll just wait on Mackenzie with his, motion and.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you. I have a motion by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Mike Vasey, that the report by Randy Burke dated January 7th, 2025 be received, and that consent application B-0125 requesting permission to sever approximately 2.4 acres from the lands known as 3981 HYSLOP line be deferred for the following reasons: to acquire more information from Hydro One on the nature of power lines on the property. All those in favor? Carried. That's good. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, we'll move on to our next application. Severance application number A-0225. Take notice that an application was made by Peter and Rita Cliff with respect to the property known as Plan 25 M53 Lot 8, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 4031 Van Bree Drive. The subject property is zoned residential 6R6. The following variances from zoning bylaws 97 of 2003 have been requested. Just one variance, variance of approximately 4.13 meters, 13.55 feet to permit the driveway to be approximately 13.13 meters, 43.08 feet at the street line, notwithstanding the required maximum of 9 meters, 29.53 feet as per section 3.25.7B of the zoning bylaw. At this time, I'll refer to our planner, Randy Shea.
Thank you, your chair. Yes, so a minor variance is requested to allow for relief for the width of a driveway. It was communicated by the owners that they believe that the 9-meter width was at the road, not necessarily the street line as it's defined in our zoning bylaw. And so kind of how this came forward was that someone from Public Works was out doing the final inspection, and that's when they noted that the driveway was above size and that they required to go through a minor variance. It did go through the 4 tests, noting if the requested variance minor. So a site visit was completed. Unanticipated that the driveway width will block the traffic flow. It is designated as urban settlement in the county official plan and service hamlet area in the town official plan. Both allow for single detached dwellings and covered driveway, so therefore it is meeting the general intent. is the general intent of the zoning bylaw maintained? So as mentioned, there was a site plan completed. It doesn't necessarily impact character of the neighborhood to a large extent, and Public Works doesn't have any concerns regarding the minor variance or the grading on the property, and the concerns were noted. And then therefore we can view it as appropriate and desirable for the lands. If there's any questions, I can do my best to answer those.
Cliff, anything to add to report?
Nothing special. I personally don't see it as an issue, but that's up to you. My neighbor beside me, his driveway at the curb is 6 feet wider than mine, so he's over there.
I'm sure you've been explained what the bylaw is and
I
whatnot.
understand it was all my mistake. At the street line, I assumed that was at the street and not 19 feet and at the property line, so my mistake.
We can see any correspondence on this application.
Through your chair, we received no correspondence.
Okay, I'll move to our committee. I'll start with my far right, Councillor Vasey.
Yes, I was just gonna say the neighbors in the same boat. All pretty long. Anyways. Was this in the drawings or was this something done? It was done when the all poured at the same time, you can see that, but was it something planning missed or is this something?
Planning doesn't have any correspondence of anything. I don't specifically.
And if we allow it to stay and we do something on that road, do we have to replace it? Or do we replace the 9 feet like the bylaw states?
General rule of thumb is we replace like for like.
So maybe that would be something that and in there that if we do end up cutting that road for whatever reason, we're not paying for the extra whatever it is, 12 feet, 13 feet. That shouldn't be our cost at all. It fits in line, doesn't hurt, but
Jennifer,
I don't have anything.
any?
I didn't have anything, but now that Mike has brought this up, I don't know that we can make that a condition. Once we allow something to happen, we end up being responsible, and I don't think you can just say, it's because we let you do it, take care of it, you know, I don't think we can do that legally. It's just humble.
That's.
I don't have any question.
We'll refer to our CAO.
Streets bylaw does have wording in regards to laneway entrances, so we can veer on that in a situation. And we have done that in the past where someone has had stamped concrete and we use asphalt up to the property line. So it's a case by case situation. Urbanly, we haven't had an urban situation as this yet, so we really haven't came across it yet. But you could use the streets bylaw as a defense meters back in.
Jennifer?
the only.
No, Adam just reminded me of something. Main Street where I live. I did not get with my driveway. That was
Right, so it would be under the bylaw application, I would think, from the streets bylaw. That would kind of cover what kind of Mike is getting at. Anything else from the committee? All right, I have a motion by Nancy McEwen, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the report by Randy Shea Planner dated January 6, 2025 be received, and that minor variance application A-0225 requesting the following variance from the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to accommodate the driveway on the lands known as 4031 Van Bree Drive. On a variance of approximately 4.13 meters, 13.55 feet, the driveway to be approximately 13.13 meters, 43.08 feet at the street line, notwithstanding the required maximum of 9 meters, 29.53 feet as per section 3.25.7B of the zoning bylaw be approved. Those in favor? That motion is carried. Mr. Cliff, there's a 20-day appeal period that you need to wait for before anything although it's done, so. If you have any questions, you can certainly talk to Mackenzie or.
One quick question, can I pull the little yellow sign out of the yard?
Yes. Yeah. Is it in the way?
Get back to you in 21 days. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, this isn't fair. Having a whole bunch of kids here looking at me and they're all cute and all well behaved. For you guys. A lot of pressure over here. I gotta read this correctly here, unless you guys would like to come up and read it. I have a minor variance application A-0125. Take notice that application is made by Chelsea Prins with respect to the property known as Plympton Concession 2W Part Lot 11 RP 25 R11317 Parts 1 and 2, Town of Plympton-Wyoming 4029 Confederation Line. The subject property is zoned agricultural 1A1. The following variances have from section 5.2A of zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 have been requested for a proposed new primary dwelling. One, a variance of approximately 93.60 meters, 307.09 feet to permit the building to be approximately 361.40 meters, 1,185.7 feet, notwithstanding that the required minimum distance separation of 455 meters, 1,492.78 feet from a manure pit. So, and number two, sorry, variance of approximately 67.1 meters, 220.14 feet to permit the building to be approximately 326.9 meters, 1,072.51 feet, notwithstanding the required minimum distance separation of 394 meters, 1,292.65 feet from a livestock barn. This time, I believe that we're looking at a deferral for this, but I will have our planner Randy Shea speak on this.
Thank you, Your Chair. Yeah, so just I guess a bit more background information on this lot. So the subject lands did undergo a severance application back in 2023. At the time of the severance application, you can kind of see the lot lines here. So there was a lot line adjustment. So right there to be added to the lands. The lot line adjustment was to accommodate for what was to be considered a proposed single detached dwelling, as well as to accommodate the size of a new septic system, which has been installed since that did go through. So that application went through back in 2023 and was approved. At the time of the severance, there's no documentation within the folders indicating that minimum distance separation was considered or required for the approval. I'm not sure the conversations that went on there, but based on the current proposal that we have now, once they went for a building permit, the application was of course sent to planning for review. And during the process, it was determined that the proposed dwelling is going to be located closer to the livestock facility than the existing dwelling, therefore required by compliance with MDS setbacks. So the minimum distance is clear if a building is located, going to be kind of reconstructed and located any closer to a livestock facility, then minimum distance needs to be met. And as it stands, what the applicants are proposing to do is to live in the current house and build the new dwelling behind it. So therefore closer. They do have a second house agreement, and as part of the second house agreement, it was conditioned that they would need to meet all MDS. So that's covered there. And so then as part plus, so they submitted a minor variance application for minimum distance separation for specifically from the livestock facility that's located at 4091 Confederation Line. So Mackenzie will just zoom out there. That is the structures here. So they require from the barn as well as the manure pit. The report was written and was in support of this application due to surrounding land uses, etc. However, through the minor variance process, we do put out notice. And as part of that notice, we do provided to surrounding landowners, and part of that is so that surrounding landowners can call staff or to get more information or provide new information. On Friday, a call was received from the owner of, so the adjacent lot that they provide the land, so 4009 Confederation line. And inform staff that one of the structures, so the structure in the rear there, is actually a unoccupied livestock facility and is not just used for storage, which was the understanding based on conversations with as well the applicant as from staff as well. So it is currently an unoccupied livestock facility. The new information, of course, was not previously known to staff. So there was a site visit completed with myself, Mackenzie went as well, to confirm that the structure is indeed an unoccupied livestock facility. And it was also confirmed that technically livestock could be housed within there without requiring a building permit, despite therefore not necessarily needing to meet minimum distance separation because of kind of, I guess, this grandfathered use, but it has been vacant since 1988. Therefore, as a result, it is anticipated that the development will require an additional variance due to this new information of the adjacent lands. So it is recommended that the application be deferred to allow for appropriate notice to be done for this new application as well. This new variance that will be added to the application. So I'm happy to.
Okay, I'll ask the landowners, anything to comment on this?
Just that no matter where a house goes on the property, it's gonna be within the minor variance. Or it's within a livestock facility, whether it be empty, full. So whether it's in front, behind, side. The difference is negligible at the most. This, I would assume this is purely just because of the closeness, this meeting to a livestock facility. But yeah, that would be my only comment.
Start with questions from Mark.
Yeah, something interesting you brought up is that this livestock facility that's been in 1988 is now going to be livestock facility because somebody wants to build a house close to it. That's the way I read it. Why wasn't this brought up?
I can speak to that. I'm the owner of 4009 Confederation Line.
There.
My fault, I didn't recognize that you were on. Can you just name if you don't mind?
Yeah, it's Bonnie Hardy.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay, so yeah, my parents lived in that farm for 50 years and passed away just before Chelsea was looking to do this expansion on the land. And so there was never, and right now we didn't sell it. I have renters in there, but I am looking at potentially moving back there when I retire. I'm just a couple years from retirement, and I've got tenants in there for a couple years. I've started to rebuild the orchard that was there that my parents had, and at that point, I would intend on, having a horse or, cow, maybe some chickens or something like that. Certainly not going back into the pig days that my dad had. Been there, done that, don't need it. But then also at some point, if the farm sells, somebody could be doing, asking to, have livestock in that barn again. And I don't remember this coming up at all during the process or the questions from when we were severing the land. And I feel really bad about this, but I just got that notice, probably from the mail strike, it was delayed. And so all I wanted to do is make sure that if I move back into the farm, that, or, at some place down the road, that it is written in this, that it is a livestock barn. So it's absolutely nothing to do with the woman's comments who said suddenly I'm planning on making it livestock because there's a house. Absolutely not. I've always not known what was gonna happen with my parents' farm. I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do. And so, and I just don't remember it coming up. And if somebody had asked me back then, you know, I would have said, and I'm not going to even impose this variance for Chelsea once, you know, for a variance to go through, but I want the property to be locked as a livestock barn. I just don't want it to be set in any municipal documents as just a storage shed, because it definitely has all the pens, everything ready to go.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Eddie?
Digest this for a minute.
Okay, Les?
I have a hard time, 1988. Last time it had livestock in, even though it's set up as livestock. It's still up.
So through your chair, there's nothing within any of the planning documents that state, you know, just because there hasn't been livestock. That's not still a livestock facility. I did go out to the property to see the pens are still set up. It's still very much, will be set up, you know, really livestock will go in tomorrow. And from the looks of when I was out there, it wouldn't require that much work and wouldn't require a building permit based on the site visit, so therefore we have to consider it. When I do the MDS calculation for this specific, it would go in as a unoccupied livestock barn. So the calculation wouldn't be quite as large as necessarily if there was, you know, newer going on at the moment, but it is anticipated that the variance will be required.
After 36 years.
So I do have the official number only came in late this evening, but now, what might actually be on the variance might be a little bit different, but just as an idea, I think that they will require 144 meters and they're approximately 89 meters away. Those are preliminary numbers, but if you were looking to know, I would put the kind of the variance on the same report written. It's just we have to make sure we get appropriate notice out there so that way everything that they're doing is done appropriately.
Jennifer?
I have a hard time supporting MDS variances because it's OMAFRA's policy that's down onto the municipality that are supposed to be. And when Randy just mentioned that there was a temporary use agreement that was approved by council where MDS was supposed to be, we're not adhering to MDS. This committee approved a MDS variance some time ago and battle with the municipality since. I can't support MDS variance.
Okay, Mike? So it looks like, I mean, obviously, in order to build or to do whatever, a variance will have to be requested. The variance isn't an option right now because it's not on this application. I believe what has probably been explained to you guys is that our planner would need to go out and take another look and get all the proper measurements and do whatever, put it on this proposal for next committee of adjustments, or the next one. I'm not sure how much time it would be needed to get numbers in and defer this, get all the numbers done and have it done properly. So I believe you guys have been told about that already.
Yes, we've been informed about Bonnie's farm there. We're just kind of hoping on the farms we've already applied for to be voted on and see where we have to go from there.
Yeah, so
Through your chair, and I mentioned this to the applicant as well yesterday, it's definitely my recommendation to defer it and put them all on one application. Even if they were to get approved tonight, then that means they would have to go through a whole new application process, whereas this way it can be put on the same application.
Okay.
And
So
it
we
would
don't have
still
to
have to
pay
be-
another.
right, that's the whole idea of deferring is so you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, that's why a deferral is better. If they were to approve, have to submit all new documentation again.
Okay.
And then pay the fee. So a deferral, you're still on the same timeline as next month.
Well, here's my opinion on the whole thing. That, so let's say we don't vote on the farms tonight and we wait a month till whatever. I'm kind of on a time crunch here. due to spring and work and other things, it's just. If the vote in a month is a no unanimous, then it just leaves me with. Doing a major renovation. Right, where it just allows me to build the house behind and I attach a roof to the old house. So. And that, from what I understand, doesn't require any minor variance. Just a permit, so. You know, it's, if that's the route the committee wants to go, it's kind of like. I understand we have to follow the rules and we have to adhere to them. If I don't mind paying another $500, to be honest, just to hear the vote on Bonnie's farm. I would very much like to hear a vote for this evening's ordeal, if that's okay.
Through your chair, it wouldn't be my recommendation. If the committee wanted to do it, I think it would have to be added as a condition that they get another application, but that's not my recommendation.
Committee?
I'll tell you what I think. I would approve this one tonight if there were nothing else involved, but with this other agricultural building now coming into place. It's been there. It's not gonna make any. In my opinion, it will also be minor, so that's my opinion, and that's people wanted to know.
Yeah, I think. Without all the documentation in front of us, the committee is not gonna be able to make a decision on that.
Oh, absolutely, and I understand that.
So I think a deferral would maybe wrap everything up properly and unfortunately it will delay. You a month.
And that's fine, as long as I know it's not a month wasted.
Well, I can't guarantee that, so I truly can't,
I
so.
understand.
Sorry, Corinne, go ahead.
Say it again, what is the distance is going to be required to this other facility?
So,
Is where they are now and what they're proposing?
yeah, so based on, I just did these kind of before I came, because I wasn't sure if it was kind of come up. I believe that they'll require a distance of 144 meters. And I think their actual distance, which was a very rough drawing on GIS, is approximately 89 meters. I think it might be longer than that.
Anything, Corinne?
And through your chair, I did just want to make, if they did were to do an addition, he is correct that an addition wouldn't require.
Oh. If you put it through, they have to.
You're gonna have to.
So with the light of the new information that we have, I have a motion here by Nancy McEwen, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the report by Randy Shea, planner dated January 6, 2025, be received that minor variance application A-0125 requesting the following variances from the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to accommodate a single detached dwelling. One variance of approximately 93.60 meters, 307.9 feet, with the building to be approximately 361.4 meters, 1,185.7 feet from the manure pit, instead of the required 455 meters, 1,492.78 feet, and a variance of approximately 67.1 meters, 220.14 feet to permit the building of approximately 326.9 meters, 1,072.51 feet stock barn, instead of the required 394 meters, 1,292.65 feet, be deferred for the following reasons: to allow time for the staff to evaluate and revise the variance to address a unoccupied livestock facility and associated MDS requirements that were brought to staff's attention during the notice process. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is deferred. Carried for the deferral.
I'm sorry.
Again, there'll be some conversation with you guys as well as with Mackenzie and.
I apologize not having the information for you guys.
No, it's-
Yeah, and I'm sorry as well. That's wasn't my intention to throw wrenches in this for them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, committee. We have some old business, our comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment. Anything to add to that at all?
No overly new updates, comments have been provided and we're moving forward. Out of the document, and if there's anything that committee even comes up with, or we're not at a meeting, feel free to email us and we can communicate that along with with NPG.
Okay, thank you. So we do have some new business tonight, 6.1, Committee of Adjustment Meeting Formal Discussions. So that's under new business. Mackenzie, you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is fair. After the last meeting, Mr. Spansky and yourself, Mr. Chair Moulton, had some discussions about potentially changing the format of committee adjustment meetings, specifically a bit longer time per application and a new limit on the number of applications per meeting. So we just wanted to bring that forth and let the committee have a discussion and see if they want to make any changes moving forward.
Okay, I'll open the floor to any suggestions or changes to the way that the format is and what we feel as a committee we can handle for applications in one evening. Some nights that we can go through applications fairly quickly, and I guess some nights the applications take a lot longer. I'll open the floor for discussion from the committee. Mike?
Pretty rare that we get through 1 in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
More often than not. Right, we're going the other way, so if we know it's gonna be a long-winded one, then staff themselves should book it 45 minutes or an hour, knowing I'd rather sit for 10 minutes than have them sit here for 45 minutes waiting for their turn, and it, what I mean, we're backlogged.
With
And-
kids like that, it was great, like they did.
We're like the doctor's office, first guy in and everybody's sitting waiting for the next one. So yeah, that would be one that I would like. And yeah, the number reflect that 3-hour meetings are a long meeting, even with this kind of stuff, so. Not that it's that common, but it's common enough that we get late nights.
Just a question, Mackenzie. I mean, it's difficult to know how long an application is going to take, depending on who talks and depending on, who presenting and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys have any idea? I mean, I think we kind of know some, if we have a bunch of speakers that want to be part of the discussion, then we know it's going to be longer than 15 minutes. Do you guys have an idea of how long
We try and get a rough estimate based on the information we have. Obviously, it's not always going to be accurate, but usually we do try and put, if something's going to be longer, we put at the end of the meeting, so it's not running into other people's time. So tonight, for example, because before we knew about the deferral stuff, still the Prince one was put last, because MDS can get complicated and we figured it could be a longer one. So we decided to schedule that last versus Cliff with the driveway. We figure that's pretty straightforward, no correspondence. We try and put that earlier in the meeting to not bleed into other people's time, but we do try and schedule meetings accordingly in time slots based on what we think the length's going to be, but obviously that's a best guess based on the information we have. And if we'd like to adjust the timing, we apply to certain meetings based off what we think it's going to take versus we do a set 15 minutes per application right now. And certainly look at that as an option moving forward, depending on the number of speakers and stuff.
I'm just going to ask a question to our planner. So, I mean, you guys do a lot of our staff do a lot of work for our applications. Is there a time where you feel that as staff, it's difficult to do a certain amount of applications for one committee of adjustments meeting?
Through your chair, yes, I think we have spoken, well, before, but I think committee said originally 6, but I think 4 could potentially be, a good number that has been discussed internally, between staff members. However, it kind of depends if there's 6, we'll split them up, and then that takes the load off a little bit, right? So, for the most part, we can get them done. And it also depends on, when we get the application from the applicant, everything like that as well. And some applications, as Mackenzie stated, are require a bit more detail than others. So that also plays a role in it as well.
Because I believe in 2024, we did, any recall how many applications that we heard? I think it was probably higher than what we would normally do any year.
You have to.
Yeah, because I think in June and I think by June or July, I think we had already had more in that half of the year than we had the previous years. So it seems like we're getting more and more applications and for severances and variances and whatnot. I'm just I think we need to prepare for the future of how many we think we're going to have and kind of adjust. We're kind of the same. I've been on the committee for whatever, 12 or 14 years, I think it is. And we're still, 15 minutes per whatever. And we do really, how many we need to do. And I agree with having, when we have people here that are waiting and whatnot, it's just not as professional as it is, like going to a doctor's office and waiting an hour to get your appointment, which isn't fun all the time. And it's not necessarily the doctor's issue, but it's just part of the process. So anything from the committee? I don't know. Internally, have you guys spoken at all, Adam?
We have, we ended around a couple different options, but I think what it really comes down to is if the committee wants hard rules on numbers, I'm open to suggestions. Otherwise, I think we just review each meeting as it's being developed, see which ones are likely to be more time intensive and adjust the times accordingly, and do the same when it comes to workload. I would worry to drop down just to four per session, because you're either going to end up with multiple meetings in a month, or you're going to be pushing back applications each month. So I would suggest that should be looked at on a per workload basis. Sometimes years are quite busier than others, so that should probably be looked at in that manner, not necessarily by putting a hard set rule on it. So if the committee is comfortable with a little bit more flexibility, we'll schedule the meetings to be more in line with what our best estimate is for timing. And we will do the same with workload.
Sounds great.
Committee okay with that? So I'm wondering if, I know I have a motion here, Mackenzie, but I'm wondering for the next meeting, if we can get that written up in a kind of a proposal and vote on that. Yes, I don't even know if it needs to be voted on, but I would think that it's kind of status quo is what we're doing, just kind of to know.
I don't think it was a formal policy anyway, so I don't think there needs to be any formal approval. No one's objecting, so we will just adjust how we're doing it currently to amend timing as we see fit and work towards the same.
I'm assuming too that staff is aware of when they deem an application complete, the timeline that it takes to get onto a meeting, because you don't want to be challenged by the applicant either.
You don't want to have to rebate your application fees because of that, nor be taken to the OLT for non-decision.
Somebody comes in here for a big rush and legitimate rush, then it's going to be a fast one. We can have 5. We don't need to stick to the 4,
Yeah.
Well,
And I think that previously it has been, if staff have an issue, they usually get a hold of me and we get a hold of the committee, whether or not we need to have another meeting or whatnot, which has kind of been the process that we've done previously. So we can continue that process, just keeping in mind that we have more applications and some of them tend to be a little bit longer than others. And if feel free to expand the timeline for some of those that might need more time. So I do have a motion here, but I don't think I need to read it. I think we'll just go status quo. Other new business. I'll go to our staff. Mackenzie, any other new business?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Randy? Bryn? Congratulations on the proper new title now that you have.
Thank you.
You can do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shorter title than what
Last year.
was before, so it's good.
Okay.
Mike, happy to have you back.
Happy to be back.
No, any new business, Jennifer?
I have two things actually.
Okay.
And it's just because of the last two applications that have come up, so. Randy verbally gave a background information on the one on Confed, but I'd like to see it actually noted in the report. Cause unless you're at the council meeting, you don't know that there's a temporary use agreement, or unless you're council. You don't know that there's a temporary use agreement where the agreement was made that MDS was to follow. Or be followed. So that's one thing I'd like to see. And I remembered looking at this application. And it actually confirmed when I seen Blake come in, because he sat at the last one when we did the consent to merge the property so that they could do septic. If that could be added, and I know that happened within this term, and again, Randy, you brought it up verbally, but if it was in the report, it certainly would help me being able to connect the dots instead of trying to figure out how to connect the dots. The second thing is with the provincial planning statements that just come out in 2024 and that surplus farm dwelling severance, how are we keeping track that there's only one severance per property?
Through your chair, so I think this was discussed when Maria had it forward as well. So moving forward, we're hoping to create, you know, an Excel sheet to try to keep track for now. And we are kind of starting it based on that date that in October that the PPS was put into place.
I realize that's gonna be a lot of work for you guys to try even remember, but let alone keep a file tracker up to date.
Yes, and we have been kind of discussing that as well.
Bryn, go ahead.
One, you mean per farm consolidation, not per farm property.
Farm consolidation, yeah. Okay.
Anything else? Nettie?
No. I think so.
Adam, I forgot to add you. Did
Oh, yes, but you know what? There is
Oh,
something.
there we go.
Yeah. I think somebody is not able to come next meeting, so do you want to change it a week so we can have full committee?
Our next meeting is scheduled on February the 11th, I believe. I don't know what the committee, I mean, we have done meetings before without one person here, but
We have, but sort of nice to like less.
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's because we didn't know. But this one, we know ahead of time, he's not gonna be here.
so not sure staff, and I guess we need to talk to staff as well if their availability for to be the 18th of February.
That gives you another week to do notices too.
The only thing is that, you know, we have two deferrals that we probably will be having there, and that they're gonna delay them again.
Yeah.
And that's still my only concern. Is that we, you know, they're
Yeah.
in a big hurry to get it done, and now we're gonna tell them
Yeah.
that we're gonna add another week to their
Yeah,
week.
that's true. I just brought it up. I don't care.
Okay,
There's no meeting scheduled on the 13th, which is a Thursday, not your normal day, but at least it's the same week.
yeah, I've got, I have another meeting on the Thursday, sorry, on the 13th.
What's the matter with the 10th?
Monday is gonna look, I'm on call on Mondays. Terrible for me to be here and on call, because I have to answer the phone. It's a crisis line.
Well, that looks like you're gonna have to go
Well,
have your anniversary.
happy anniversary
The
last,
14th, we won't be doing nothing. So.
yeah. Well, I missed last year's Valentine's Day here. I didn't miss it, actually, my wife did, so. If it's okay with the committee, I think we'll stay with the 11th, because everyone knows, and I would staff have already kind of got things, sorry, less than happy anniversary to you.
It's fine with me. I Everybody knows it won't be here.
Yeah. Okay, anything else, Nettie?
No, just enjoy your anniversary, Les.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
It's old business, what we were just talking about,
Sure.
just to avoid,
Should have said when I was talking to old business then.
wow, just to avoid conflict. Just where that's all coming from. I think you have to look at that as that property, be it 37 years, doesn't matter. That's a farm property. I don't think the issue is being pushed that anybody's trying to stop them from building. But there has to be something put in there that if that's a generational farm and they want to come back and put a chicken in there, just because somebody built a house after that farm. That's the issue. It's not an issue of them building. It's an issue that you can't build a house beside a farm that's a production farm. Doesn't matter how many years somebody hasn't had livestock there. It's a farm. So like that's what we got to look at this as. Like, I don't think anybody's pushing, trying to stop them from building. Well, I don't know whether you can put a retainer or a condition on them not to complain in the future or oppose in the future a variance. There shouldn't have to be anything because it's a farm regardless, right? Like that's where this is at. They're building a residential house in A1 land, right? So like I said, I don't think anybody's opposing them. I wasn't here to oppose them. I was actually more interested in the first topic, but I think that's how that has to be looked at. And from the adjoining landowner, that's where it has to be looked at. I know the setback, it sucks. They've already gone to all that work, the septic and everything, but like I say, I don't think anybody's trying to stop them. By all means, I'm not. I don't think Bonnie is. And but if I'm the adjacent landowner, I guess which I am, and I have a livestock barn, for someone to build a dwelling beside me and kick the shit out of the value of that property, it's completely asinine. You can't do that. Like, especially like generational farm, whatever, like all of a sudden, like, so I don't know what she has there, 8 acres or 9 acres, like that's opportune hobby farm for somebody with a horse or a couple cows. You can't approve a house beside them and take that away from somebody, right? That's where I think everybody in the neighborhood's probably at on that. So,
Yeah, I think that
like I say, there's no opposition.
and giving the variance doesn't say that they can't have, the variance would be that we would be allowing them to have both the house
Yes.
and the livestock in the barn.
But
and not
just whether
not one
there's-
without the other, and not saying that that person couldn't put livestock back into that barn.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's whether there's a conditioner or a retainer on that dwelling that cannot be stopped in the future, right? Because you can't put
Yeah, and I don't think that the part of our decisions
We're
would.
building a new barn.
If
Yeah.
they're building a new barn, they'd have to meet MDS and they'd have to come to the committee for a variance if they're just using the existing facility.
Because
Yeah,
and not expand.
everybody's
Yeah,
house.
They were building a new barn.
no,
Yeah.
exactly.
So through your chair, yeah, so the adjacent lands that have the livestock facility. If they required a building permit, then they would be required to meet minimum distance separation as well. It is a different calculation. There's MDS 2 and MDS 1. But based on where the current house is right now, that there's already a house there, they would have to meet distance to that. So there would be a potential that they would either get the building permit or they would have to come for a variance. However, the building that's there right now, they could kind of put it in tomorrow and potentially we might not know, depending on what's
Well, you shouldn't have to.
right. So I just want to make that clear that if they were to kind of need a building permit, then they would have to meet MDS the same way that this property now needs to meet MDS. But because it's, you know, like I said, I went out for the site visit, the pens are there, the flooring, everything's there. They could, you know, put in a horse and the thing of like a horse and stuff isn't of concern, but it used to be, you know, hogs. So that's where you're kind of like, we need to acknowledge that this used to be there.
Yeah, just,
But 1 horse or 2 horse, obviously we'd have to run the numbers, but well, it's hard to buy nutrient units, so we need to do that. So there is a threshold, and kind of based on my conversations with the owner, I don't know if that threshold would ever be met in the future based on the plans, but we have to make sure we're acknowledging what it could be.
yeah, basically, I'm the same way on the other side of the fence, is that just because someone's building a house, you just want to look at it as you can't restrict the other people that.
She could put hogs in there if she wanted.
Yeah, you could put
She wants to.
You could tomorrow.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
no, just outside opinion.
Yep.
Have a good night.
That's anything?
Yeah, just a question on the training module. Whether everybody got those?
From citation? Yeah. Adam, I deleted mine, so can you comment on those? Cause Nettie said she didn't get any as well.
They just got blocked. So committee staff members, we send out the minimum training requirements each year. As committee members are technically employees of the town to a certain extent. So there should have been updates in regards to AOD, customer service, violence and harassment in the workplace, etc. that were provided. If the link was blocked or you have not filled out if you've not had those training in the past, you can we can resend you a different link so it doesn't get blocked by email. If you are currently active and your workplace has provided you that annual provincial training, you can provide proof of that training, then you will not need to necessarily complete our training.
Okay,
Second.
You're gonna be resending the link is what you're saying.
I deleted mine because Nettie said she didn't get it. She told me to delete it. So.
I did mine. Don't send it to me.
No, I have harassment and whatnot at the workplace, of course, for the hospital. Do I need to just provide that?
If you have certificates confirming that you've completed
Yeah, I do.
within a year, then that would be acceptable. Okay, but most of those programs are.
So I guess what you're saying is the expectation is that we do those modules. Is that what you're saying?
Unless you can prove that you've already done them through a different function.
Okay,
Follow up.
okay. You only asked for one question. Last question.
Didn't let me
Go
finish.
ahead.
So basically, it was the one that I had question on was the women's.
Yes.
There's no. I'll be honest with you. I've done women's for work before and felt the need that there should be there. I don't see anything in this room other than maybe that sanitizer. That comes anywhere close to what women's is meant to be.
And I agree wholeheartedly, except that WMIS is required by the province, therefore we require it of yourselves. It doesn't matter the workplace, WMIS training is a mandatory program.
What is the
Hospital? Every year.
does that include every employee? And I could see that because there's a lot of
Chemicals in the hospital?
in the hospital.
There are.
Even hand soap is considered a chemical.
You don't drink the hand sanitizer.
So if you wouldn't mind, just a
large
reminder to our
enough size.
committee, Mackenzie, to have the citation, send that again. For some reason, it got deleted on my iPad.
Never seen it.
Yours must be blocked as well, Counselor Vasey, so maybe you need that.
A time limit to get it done. So maybe if you didn't get it done, it might have floated away.
Oh, it got you,
Actually
then
gives
you got
you a
another
review.
one that said you haven't completed is what.
If you log into your account, it will no longer be under assigned task. It will be under the big red flashing label that overdue tasks.
And mine are both deleted, so. Okay. Anything else, Les?
Thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Thanks a lot.
I just like,
Glad you,
I
Keener.
like to share.
HR and planning are not that all different in the sense that we enforce a lot of provincial legislation that you may or may not agree with, but it is legislation.
Adam, anything for you to add under new business? Sorry,
Not tonight, Chair.
Thank you. So reasoning for our decisions, we didn't, we deferred 2 decisions tonight and, accepted, so. Next meeting, we'll probably have those deferrals with us along with, I think already Mackenzie, 2 applications.
Yep, 2.
Okay.
No. This lane is coming or no?
Well, they have.
So yeah, we'll have 2 plus likely the 2 deferrals unless something comes up that causes to delay them further, but.
All right, I'd like to thank the staff and committee for their work tonight and for the last month. I have a motion by Les Goldhawk, seconded by Nancy McEwen, that the Committee of Adjustments meeting be adjourned and the next meeting be scheduled for February 11th, 2025 at 5:15 PM. All those in favor? Okay, this carried.